Before you hear the story you're about to hear tonight, remember one thing. Some families didn't just disappear from history, they were buried by it. Hidden deep in the Missouri hills lies a legend so disturbing, locals refused to speak its name for more than a century. A family that lived beyond law, beyond sanity, and far beyond anything human eyes were meant to witness. They weren't just feared, they were avoided. Because the Maddox sisters carried a secret the hills tried to hide, a secret so unnatural it twisted the land itself. Tonight, you're not just listening to a story. You're uncovering one of America's darkest forgotten remains. This is the tale of the Maddox sisters and the night the hills woke up hungry. The hills of southern Missouri hold heat like a coffin, dry, airless, and choking even in late spring. People say the heat messes with the mind, makes shadows look like figures, makes sounds echo wrong. But the old-timers didn't blame the weather for what happened in 1899. They blamed the Maddox sisters. Most folks avoided Maddox Hollow long before the story began. The woods grew too dense, the creek ran too dark, and no matter the season, a thin metallic smell lingered around the trees like rusted tools that someone never bothered to bury. Families moving west refused to camp there, even for a night. Hunters avoided it. Surveyors skip-marked it on their maps like a stain. Because deep in that hollow sat a crooked, slanted house with warped boards and blacked-out windows, home to the three women the county called the Maddox Sisters. Alara, June, and Louetta Maddox, the reclusive daughters of a long-dead miner, were spoken of only in mutters, only when night got too quiet. Nobody knew their age for sure. Some guessed mid-20s, others whispered 40s. Their faces almost never appeared in town, but on the rare nights they did, people froze. Their eyes, pale, wide, and strangely unfocused, didn't blink right. Their voices, soft as moth wings, never matched their faces, and their walk, stiff, uneven, made people think of marionettes moving without strings. But the thing that frightened everyone most was the children. 2 years before the 1899 incident, townsfolk had started seeing small figures on the ridge above Maddox Hollow at dusk, pale boyish shapes watching the valley, unmoving, unspeaking. They never came to town, never played with other children, never even laughed. Most people assumed the sisters had taken in orphans from the mines, or maybe cousins visiting. But the rumors started anyway. Some claimed the children looked too much like the sisters. Some claimed they didn't look human at all. Some claimed they crawled more than they walked. And some swore the children moved in absolute silence, even over dry leaves. Nobody had the courage to investigate, not until Sheriff Darren Lyle took over the county. On May 3, 1899, a 16-year-old boy named Clay Watterson was found wandering barefoot along the creek, half-starved, clothes shredded, face scratched raw as if he'd run through brambles in the dark. Clay didn't speak for almost 12 hours. When he finally did, he whispered one sentence that changed everything. "They're not children. And they're not theirs." The sheriff tried questioning him further, but Clay kept shaking, clutching his arms as though something cold still clung to him. That same evening, just before sundown, a second witness came forward. Mrs. Deborah Allen, a farmer's wife whose property bordered the forest. She claimed she'd seen movement near the ridge 2 nights in a row. Not footsteps, crawling. Dozens of limbs moving low to the earth, pale and fast, like animals hunting. She said she heard whispering too, voices layered on each other, too many for 3 women or a handful of children. Voices that didn't sound shaped by human mouths. The sheriff gathered a small search party, 3 townsmen with rifles, lanterns, and iron hooks. No one wanted to join, but people also didn't want to be the next one, found stumbling along a creek with claw marks on their throat. As they entered Maddox Hollow, the woods felt wrong. Silent in a way nothing natural ever is. Not a single bird, not a single insect. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The house appeared through the trees, leaning, bloated with age, its roof sagging like a ribcage. The windows reflected nothing. The door stood cracked open, as if waiting. The men stopped. Something was breathing inside. Slow, heavy, wet. Sheriff Lyle raised his lantern. The flames shuddered though there was no wind. A whisper drifted out of the doorway. Not a voice, but something trying to sound like one. SSSHHH. The brothers are sleeping. Every man froze. None of them had spoken. The sheriff swallowed. "Is someone inside?" A soft answer floated out. Not a woman's voice. Not a child's. Something older, hungrier, rehearsed. "We've been expecting you." A thin hand slid into view, resting on the doorframe. The lantern light caught skin the color of gray milk, stretched too tightly over knuckles, fingers too long, too thin. Then, more hands appeared beneath it. Small ones. Clawing ones. And dozens of pale eyes opened in the dark behind them. The forest changed after that night. People said the hills around the Maddox property had a new sound, a low, dragging hum, like something too big to hide yet too patient to reveal itself. Hunters stopped going near those woods. Even the animals stopped crossing the ridge. Something had marked that land, and it was hungry. The sisters remained inside their collapsing cabin, barely seen in daylight. They moved differently now. Too slow, too watchful, too synchronized. A single shadow in 3 different bodies. Weeks passed before anyone else found the courage to climb the hill. But trouble has a way of finding places meant to be left alone. The Traveler. In early October, a salesman named Nathan Harrow, young, ambitious, and stupidly brave, wandered into town asking for lodging. He stopped at the general store and mentioned he had seen smoke rising from a cabin up on the ridge. The store fell silent. An old man at the counter dropped his tobacco pipe and whispered without looking up, "Son, if you saw smoke up there, don't go back. That hill ain't meant for the living." Nathan laughed, brushing off the warning. Travelers always think they're smarter than the locals. Always think the stories are just stories. By dusk, he was walking straight toward the Maddox cabin. A door that should not have opened. He reached the porch as the sun bled red through the trees. The door opened by itself, creaking inwards, as if the house had been waiting. Inside, the air felt thick, warm, wet, and smelling faintly of iron and soil. The Maddox sisters stood at the far end of the room, not moving, not blinking, just watching him. Nathan cleared his throat, trying to sound polite. "I'm sorry to bother you. I saw smoke earlier. Thought someone might need help." No reply. Just 3 women with tangled hair, pale skin, and eyes too dark to reflect light. He stepped back, suddenly feeling the urge to run, but the door slammed shut behind him. Hard. He whipped around, but the room had changed. The air heavier, darker, and the sisters were closer than they had been seconds before. Not walking, not stepping, just appearing closer each time he blinked. Deeper inside the cabin, the floor creaked under him as he backed up. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Then he saw it. A small crib in the corner, carved from dark, rotting wood. Rocking on its own even though the air was still. Nathan swallowed hard. What is that?" The sisters all tilted their heads at the same slow angle, just like animals studying prey. Then one of them, Etta, whispered, voice cracked and broken, "It's ours." Another sister, May, added, "Born under the floor." And the third, Lila, finished. And fed by the hills, Nathan felt the blood drain from his face. Something shifted underneath the floorboards. Something large. Something crawling, slowly, toward him. He stumbled back, kicking up dust, staring at the boards as the thumping grew louder. Thump, thump, thump. "Someone's down there," he gasped. "Who did you lock in there?" The sisters' mouths twitched into thin, unnatural smiles. May whispered, "Not someone. Something." The floorboards bulged upward. Wood cracked. Nathan sprinted for the door, but Etta appeared in front of him, hand outstretched. Her fingers were long, too long, and her nails curved like tiny hooks. "You can't leave," she whispered. "The hills chose you." Screams that didn't echo. Nathan shoved her aside and climbed through an open window, landing in the mud with a grunt. As he ran, he could hear them behind him, not chasing on foot, but gliding, scraping, dragging something across the dirt. He reached the tree line, but something caught his ankle. A small hand. A child's hand. No, not a child. Not anymore. He screamed as the thing beneath the cabin pulled him back, fingers icy and impossibly strong. He clawed at the ground, but his nails tore off against the rocks. And then, silence. The forest swallowed the rest. After the disappearance, the next morning, Nathan's horse wandered back into town, riderless, eyes rolling with terror, foam around its mouth. The sheriff gathered a search party, and they pushed into the woods, guns drawn, dogs barking, men muttering prayers under their breath. What they found wasn't Nathan, not his body, not his bones, not even a trace of a struggle. But they did find something else. The ground near the Maddox cabin was torn open, as if something had crawled out instead of in. And in the center of the clearing lay a single wooden toy, hand-carved, shaped like a child, and covered in dried blood. The men left without knocking on the cabin door. No one wanted to see what lived inside. No one wanted to give it a reason to come out. The noise from the hills. That night, the entire ridge shook. Not from thunder, not from wind, from something alive. The townspeople heard screams, not human, not animal, echoing through the valley like giant lungs exhaling misery. Children hid under beds. Doors were bolted. Candles burned until dawn, and through the darkness, the Maddox cabin glowed with a faint red light, as if the thing under the floor had finally grown too big to stay hidden. Dawn never truly reached the Maddox Ridge. Even when the sky burned gold over Missouri, the cabin sat drowned in a gray shadow that refused to lift. It was as if the land itself didn't want to remember what lived there. The sheriff returned with 10 men at sunrise. None of them wanted to be there. Every one of them felt the terror thickening the deeper they climbed. And halfway up the hill, the dogs refused to go further. They whimpered, tails between their legs, backing away from the trail. The men tried to pull them forward. but the animals fought back with wild-eyed desperation. One dog even chewed through its own rope. That's when the men understood. Whatever waited in that cabin did not fear them, but the dogs feared it. The cabin's welcome. The search party reached the clearing just as the wind died, the forest holding its breath. The Maddox cabin stood silent. Too silent. No birds, no insects, no movement, just the constant feeling that something unseen was watching from between the trees. The sheriff knocked on the door with the barrel of his rifle. No answer. He knocked again. Still nothing. Then, with a long groan, the door cracked open by itself, the same way it had opened for Nathan Harrow. The men exchanged terrified looks, but the sheriff stepped inside first. Duty has a way of killing common sense. Inside the cabin, the air looked thick, like fog trapped indoors. It smelled like rotting leaves mixed with hot metal. The floorboards were cracked open near the corner, clawed upward from below. Something had forced its way out. The sheriff walked ahead, scanning the shadows. "May? Etta? Lila?" he called. "We're not here for trouble. We just need to talk." Silence. Then, a soft, wet dragging sound from the back room. The men raised their rifles. The sheriff motioned them to stay back and slowly pushed open the bedroom door. What they saw inside froze them where they stood. The Maddox sisters were kneeling on the floor, backs turned, huddled around something. Their shoulders rose and fell with slow, synchronized breaths. Too slow, too deep, too unnatural. Their skin looked stretched, veins crawling like dark vines beneath the surface. Their hair hung down like damp ropes. The sheriff whispered, "Girls, you need to stand up, right now." They didn't move, but something else did. Something behind them. Something. Breathing. The sisters finally turned their heads, all three at the exact same second, their necks bending too far, their jaws too loose, their eyes rolled completely white. May spoke first, voice layered, like two voices speaking in one throat. "You shouldn't have come here." Then Etta. "He's hungry." Then Lila, smiling with broken teeth. "And he knows your names." The sheriff raised his gun, but the floor beneath the sisters exploded upward as something massive slammed against it from below. The men stumbled back, guns shaking, as a monstrous silhouette rose from the darkness under the cabin. The creature born from the hills, it pulled itself into the room, slow, wet, terrible. Its arms were long and skeletal, ending in fingers like sharpened deer antlers. Its chest was broad but sunken. Its face, if it could be called a face, was somewhere between a starving wolf and a man who should never have lived. Its eyes were black pits. Its mouth stretched unnaturally wide, filled with too many teeth, some human, some not. And its belly. God help them. Its belly was marked with rows of small, twitching lumps, as if something inside was still moving. The creature sniffed the air, then snapped its head toward the men. The sheriff fired first. The bullet hit the creature's shoulder, but instead of bleeding, the wound hissed like steam escaping a vent. The monster roared, a sound so deep the walls vibrated. And then it charged. The slaughter. The men fired wildly, but the creature moved too fast. It tore into the first man, lifting him like a doll, slamming him into the ceiling so hard that his skull split. Another man tried to run, but the sisters crawled across the floor on all fours, unnaturally fast, and dragged him back into the cabin, their fingers digging into his flesh. The sheriff grabbed the lamp from the table and hurled it against the floor, lighting the cabin's dry boards on fire. Flames erupted instantly. The creature roared again, flailing, hitting the walls like an enraged bull trapped in its own grave. The sisters screamed, not in pain, but in fury. "You can't take him," May shrieked. "He belongs to the hills." Lila screeched. "He belongs to us." Etta howled. The sheriff ran for the door as flames swallowed the room. The hill that burned. He staggered outside, coughing, collapsing into the dirt. Behind him, the cabin burned like a funeral pyre. The other surviving men dragged themselves out, two of them bleeding, one missing fingers, one with half his coat ripped off. They watched in silent horror. Inside the cabin, something thrashed. Something huge. Something screaming. The sisters' voices rose with the fire, not dying, not weakening, but chanting in some ancient tongue, their silhouettes dancing behind the flames. And the creature beneath the floor let out one final roar, a sound that shook the ridge and rattled the earth beneath their boots. Then the cabin collapsed into a pit of smoking ash, and the hill fell silent. After, for weeks, smoke rose from that hill. No one went up there. No one wanted to see what the fire might have failed to kill. The sheriff filed no report. The surviving men never spoke of it again, but every now and then, someone camping near the ridge reported strange noises. A woman's voice whispering. A child crying. Something large moving just beneath the soil, as if tunneling. The forest floor sometimes collapses in small places around the ridge, leaving deep pits. Locals say they're sinkholes, but others, the old ones, know better. They say the Maddox sisters didn't die. They say the creature didn't die. They say the hills don't let their children go. And on certain nights, when the moon hangs low over Missouri, you can still hear the chanting. Faint. Rhythmic. Wrong. As if three voices are calling something back. Calling their brother. Calling him home. If you ever find yourself wandering the backwoods of Missouri, and you feel the ground tremble under your feet as if something is moving beneath the soil, don't wait. Don't look back. And don't listen to the voices calling your name. Because some say the Maddox Sisters never died. Some say the creature never stopped searching. And some say the hills still whisper, waiting for the next traveler who climbs too far. If you want more forgotten American horrors, more buried legends, and more stories the world tried to erase, then stay with us. You're watching Forgotten Remains, where the dead don't stay quiet, and the truth is always darker than the stories.